In this video, we're tackling an issue that affects millions of Australians and has profound implications for the country's financial future: the growing debt crisis. Across Australia, individuals and families are finding it increasingly difficult to stay afloat, with many struggling to meet daily expenses, pay off loans, or save for the future. Rising debt levels are more than just numbers in a report. They reflect the challenges and pressures many people face in today's economic climate. Whether it's the high cost of living, stagnant wages, or increasing reliance on credit, the reality is that financial stress is becoming a significant part of life for countless Australians. But what's driving this surge in debt? Is it a result of personal financial decisions, broader economic factors, or systemic issues? And more importantly, what can be done to reverse the trend? We'll delve into the core of the problem, exploring not just the statistics but also the human stories behind them. If you've ever wondered why it feels harder than ever to get ahead financially, or what's behind the headlines about Australia's mounting debt levels, stay tuned. Together, we'll unpack the story and explore possible solutions. To truly grasp the scale of the debt crisis in Australia, let's begin with some staggering statistics. As of 2024, the average Australian household debt-to-income ratio has reached an alarming 187%. To put this in perspective, back in the early 1990s, the ratio was closer to 70%. And this dramatic increase highlights just how significantly household debt has grown over the past few decades. What's even more concerning is Australia's position on the global stage. The nation consistently ranks among the highest in household debt worldwide. The total household debt across Australia has now surpassed $2.5 trillion, encompassing everything from mortgages and credit card balances to personal loans and buy now, pay later schemes. Mortgages remain the largest contributor, as skyrocketing property prices have forced many Australians to take on substantial loans to secure a home. Meanwhile, the widespread availability of credit and buy now, pay later services has made it easier than ever to accumulate debt for everyday expenses. But how did we reach this point? Economic factors like wage stagnation, rising living costs, and low interest rates have played a significant role, encouraging borrowing while making it harder to save. At the same time, societal trends and shifting attitudes toward debt have normalized living beyond one's means. In the coming sections, we'll explore these drivers in detail, unravel the systemic factors behind the crisis, and discuss what it all means for Australians today. A major driver of Australia's debt crisis is the skyrocketing property market, as owning a home has long been a cornerstone of Australian culture, but for many, it has turned into a financial strain. Over the past 2 decades, housing prices in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne have soared by over 300%, forcing first-time buyers to take on unprecedented levels of debt to secure a place to live. Several factors have fueled this property boom, including historically low interest rates, government incentives, and a relentless demand for housing. While these factors initially made borrowing more accessible, they also encouraged Australians to take on substantial mortgage debts, leaving the country with one of the highest levels of mortgage debt globally. The challenge has grown even more daunting with recent interest rate hikes by the Reserve Bank of Australia. After years of enjoying record low rates, borrowers are now grappling with significantly higher monthly repayments. For instance, a family with a $700,000 mortgage might have seen their repayments increase by several $100s per month within a short span of time. This sudden rise in cost is putting immense pressure on household budgets, often leaving little room for savings, investments, or unexpected expenses. Many Australians are finding themselves stretched to the limit, teetering on the edge of financial instability. The housing crisis exemplifies the broader issues contributing to Australia's debt problem, highlighting the need for both systemic changes and individual financial resilience. Beyond the housing market, the soaring cost of living in Australia is placing enormous strain on household budgets. Everyday essentials like groceries, fuel, utilities, and childcare have become significantly more expensive, leaving many Australians struggling to make ends meet. Inflation, currently at multi-decade highs, is eroding purchasing power and compounding the financial challenges faced by families across the country. Consider the rising cost of groceries. Just a few years ago, a typical family might have spent around $200 per week on food. Today, that same grocery basket could easily exceed $300, representing a sharp increase in a relatively short period. And similarly, energy bills have climbed steeply, further squeezing household budgets. For renters, the situation is even more precarious. Skyrocketing rental prices are forcing many to spend a disproportionate share of their income on housing, leaving little room for other necessities or savings. Those without access to stable housing face even greater challenges as competition for affordable rentals intensifies. In this financial climate, it's no surprise that more Australians are turning to credit to cover everyday expenses. Credit cards, personal loans, and buy now, pay later services are becoming lifelines for many, but they come at a cost, leading to a cycle of debt that is increasingly difficult to escape. The rising cost of living underscores the broader economic pressures contributing to Australia's debt crisis and highlights the urgent need for strategies to address inflation, improve affordability, and support financial resilience. Australia's increasing reliance on credit is another critical factor driving the debt crisis. Credit cards, personal loans, and buy now, pay later services are no longer reserved for discretionary spending. They are now being used to cover essential expenses like groceries, medical bills, and utility payments. Buy now, pay later platforms have surged in popularity over the past decade, offering convenience and immediate access to goods and services. However, this accessibility comes with risks. These platforms often encourage spending beyond one's means, creating a false sense of financial flexibility. The consequences of missing a payment can be severe, with hefty late fees that trap users in a cycle of debt. Credit card debt remains a persistent issue for Australians. Despite regulatory efforts to safeguard consumers, many individuals carry balances month after month, accruing significant interest charges. According to recent data, the average credit card debt per person exceeds $3,000. For those already struggling with other financial obligations, this additional burden can quickly spiral out of control. When combined with personal loans and other forms of consumer credit, the cumulative effect is a dangerous financial cocktail. Many Australians are now juggling multiple sources of debt, with minimum payments barely covering the interest, let alone reducing the principal. This growing dependency on credit underscores the challenges of managing rising living costs in an environment where incomes are not keeping pace. Addressing this trend requires both systemic reform and improved financial literacy to help Australians navigate these pressures more effectively. The growing burden of debt in Australia is not just a financial issue, it's a significant mental health concern. Anxiety, depression, and stress stemming from financial difficulties are becoming alarmingly common across the nation. According to a 2023 survey, over 40% of Australians report feeling stressed about their financial situation, with younger generations particularly vulnerable to these pressures. For many, debt stress manifests as a constant worry about making ends meet or the fear of falling behind on repayments. This chronic anxiety can have a ripple effect on overall well-being, leading to sleep disturbances, reduced concentration, and feelings of hopelessness. The impact of debt extends beyond individuals, often straining personal relationships. Financial disagreements are one of the leading causes of conflict among couples, creating tension and, in some cases, leading to separation. Families, too, bear the brunt of financial strain as parents struggle to balance providing for their children while managing mounting obligations, as workplaces are also feeling the effects of debt-related stress. Employees burdened by financial worries often experience decreased productivity, higher absenteeism, and difficulty focusing on their tasks. This creates a cycle where financial struggles impact work performance, potentially leading to further financial instability. Ultimately, the mental health toll of debt underscores the need for comprehensive support systems. Greater access to financial counseling, mental health resources, and education about managing debt can help Australians regain control of their finances and alleviate the emotional burden that comes with it. What role does the government play in Australia's growing debt crisis? Successive governments have introduced policies aimed at stimulating the economy and the housing market, but some of these measures have had unintended consequences that exacerbated the problem. For instance, first home buyer grants, while designed to help Australians enter the property market, often drive up demand. This surge in demand typically inflates property prices, making housing less affordable over time and increasing the size of mortgages required to buy a home. The Reserve Bank of Australia's monetary policies have also played a significant role. Historically, low interest rates encouraged borrowing, making it easier for Australians to take out larger loans. However, as inflation surged, the Reserve Bank responded by hiking rates, significantly increasing monthly repayments for many households. This rapid shift has left borrowers, who were accustomed to low rates, struggling to adjust to the new financial reality. Critics argue that while these policies may have been well-intentioned, they fail to address the root causes of financial vulnerability in Australia. Systemic issues such as housing affordability, stagnant wage growth, and the rising cost of living remain largely unaddressed. Without significant reforms, these problems will continue to place Australians at risk of financial instability. Moving forward, there is a clear need for government policies that prioritize long-term solutions over short-term gains. Measures that tackle wage stagnation, improve access to affordable housing, and support financial resilience are essential to curbing the growing debt crisis. Wage stagnation is another critical factor in Australia's growing financial pressures. Over the past decade, wage growth in the country has been among the slowest in the developed world. While the cost of living has skyrocketed, wages have failed to keep pace. This disconnect between earnings and expenses has left many Australians struggling to make ends meet, often forcing them to rely on credit or loans to bridge the gap. For instance, a worker earning $70,000 annually in 2015 might now be facing much higher living costs without a corresponding rise in income. Rent, utilities, groceries, and other essential expenses have seen substantial increases, yet wages have remained stagnant. This disparity not only reduces disposable income, but also makes it increasingly difficult for individuals and families to save for the future or invest in opportunities that could improve their financial standing. As a result, wage stagnation has contributed to a cycle of financial instability. Households are often left with little choice but to prioritize immediate needs over long-term financial goals, such as home ownership, retirement savings, or education. This imbalance also places additional strain on mental health, as financial stress becomes a constant burden. Addressing wage stagnation is vital for creating a more equitable and sustainable economic environment. Without meaningful wage growth, Australians will continue to face mounting financial challenges, further exacerbating inequality and limiting opportunities for upward mobility. Bridging the gap between wages and living costs is an essential step toward fostering financial. The debt crisis is impacting Australians in vastly different ways depending on their age. Baby boomers, who purchased property when housing was more affordable, often have substantial equity and are generally better positioned financially. Many in this generation benefit from decades of wage growth and lower housing costs earlier in their lives, providing them with greater financial security today. In stark contrast, millennials and Gen Z are facing a much bleaker economic landscape. Younger Australians are burdened by significant student loans, stagnant wages, and soaring housing costs. These challenges have forced many to delay major life milestones, such as purchasing a home, starting a family, or even envisioning a future where they can retire debt-free. This generational divide highlights a growing inequality within Australia's economy. While older generations often have financial assets and stability, younger Australians face mounting barriers to achieving the same security. Without structural changes to address wage stagnation, student debt, and housing affordability, this gap is likely to widen further. Bridging this divide is crucial for creating a fairer economic future, ensuring younger generations are not left to shoulder disproportionate financial burdens while striving for the same opportunities as their predecessors. The rising debt crisis doesn't just affect individuals. It has broader implications for the economy. High levels of household debt make the economy more vulnerable to shocks. For instance, a significant rise in unemployment or a sudden economic downturn could lead to widespread defaults, triggering a financial crisis. Moreover, high debt levels dampen consumer spending, which is a critical driver of economic growth. When households allocate more of their income to debt repayments, they have less to spend on goods and services, slowing economic activity and affecting businesses across the board. So what can be done to address Australia's rising debt crisis? Solutions require a multifaceted approach involving individuals, governments, and financial institutions. Let's explore some potential measures. Educating Australians about budgeting, saving, and responsible borrowing is crucial. Schools, workplaces, and community organizations can play a role in providing financial literacy programs to help individuals make informed decisions. Tackling the housing affordability crisis is essential, as the government could focus on increasing the supply of affordable homes, regulating property speculation, and reviewing tax incentives that disproportionately benefit investors. Regulating credit products like buy now, pay later services and limiting predatory lending practices can protect vulnerable Australians. Enhanced transparency around fees and interest rates would also empower consumers. Policymakers need to prioritize wage growth through initiatives such as minimum wage increases, fair pay agreements, and support for industries that drive job creation. Providing accessible mental health resources for those experiencing financial stress can help alleviate the psychological toll of debt. Employers, insurers, and government programs all have a role to play in this. The rising debt crisis in Australia is a complex and multifaceted issue, but it's not insurmountable. By raising awareness, advocating for systemic change, and taking proactive steps at an individual level, Australians can work toward a more secure financial future. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. What do you think are the most pressing factors behind Australia's debt crisis? And what solutions do you believe could make the biggest difference? Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.